Today I want to talk about Church Bible Publishers' Midsize Center Column Reference Bible. They call it a Turquoise. It is actually a printing of the old Cambridge Presentation Bible, also known as the Turquoise. It's a very nice book, and I like it quite a lot. I ordered it on a Monday and received it from Cadillac, Michigan on a Thursday. So very good service there. Very inexpensive for an iron calfskin Bible of this quality. This is the 130 C1 BK. I see the grain in the iron calfskin here in places, sewn along the edges. I'm not going to talk about the things that other people generally talk about quite well. There are videos out there, Eggmania, the King James Version Store, Brian McClurg. They've talked about this Bible in detail. What I'm going to do in this video is compare it with other versions, the Cameo, the Schuyler, Canterbury, and the Longprimer, concentrating on the typeface, the paper, the readability. The calfskin is very nice, as I mentioned, but it's not as thick as the calfskin. Some of you might remember the old Lockman single column reference Bible and the thin line large print when they were printed in the US and they came in the slip cases. It's not quite as thick as that calfskin, but it is very nice nevertheless. My own opinion is that calfskin is fine. Goatskin is wonderful, but it's very expensive. To my taste, good flexible top grain cowhide, like that you'll find in some of the Crossway Bibles, is just as nice to the touch, and it's less expensive. Let's look at the print quality in this. I think it's very impressive. See, it's very dark, very bold. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful print. The only problem is that the paper is glossy. See that sheen? And I think if they could get rid of this shiny paper and get something that creates a diffuse reflection instead, they'd be much better off. I've only found one spot where I think the print is somewhat uneven. Only had it for a couple of days. There may be other spots. But if you compare pages 306 and 308, you see what I mean. That's 310. Here's 306. And here we go, 308. So you can see that 308 on the right is a little bit dimmer than 306 on the left. But not much, and it's not really a problem. I love the layout. You'll notice sometimes in this book the words run together. Go to, this of course has nothing to do with Church Bible Publishers. This is the Cambridge layout. If you look at 214, you'll see that destroy him is now a single word. Similarly, if you go over to 1 John chapter 4 verse 1, believe not every is a new word. It's almost like German, where they string things together. It's still very readable, and it's no problem for anyone, I don't think, to be able to tell those apart. Go back to Hebrews. Okay. Hebrews 2. Verse 1. I'm Let's show this in comparison to the Cameo, if I can manage this. Cameo's on the right. Turquoise on the left. You can see that the layout is the same. The lines break in the same point. You have each verse just looks very, very close in terms of configuration. But you might notice to your eye that the Cameo appears more cramped. The lines appear to be spaced closer. It's not just a matter of it being a smaller font. They seem to be harder on the eye. And in fact it is. I measured the width to the height ratio. The width to height for the Cameo is 3.3. The width to height for the Turquoise is 3.0, which means that they put in more spacing between the lines on the Turquoise. It is easier on the eye. I want to do a comparison with the Allan Longprimer. Allan Longprimer is also a very nice font for typeface. Get them here so you can see them next to each other. A few things you notice. The Longprimer is a little bit less bold. It's still very nice. The Longprimer is a smaller font. I compared them to a Georgia font typeface, and the Turquoise on the right is about 10.5 points in Georgia, whereas the Longprimer on the left is about 10. Another thing that you notice that's different between the two is the number of characters per line. I frankly like this better. I like the shorter lines. I am definitely not a member of the single column Bible Mafia. I prefer double columns, and I like my columns thin. Not too thin. I don't want one word per line, but this is very good. This is about 30 characters per line on the right, and on the left it's about 35. Another thing you might notice is that the Turquoise has words that are supplied by the translators in italics, and the Longprimer does not. Now, another similar Bible is the Schuyler Canterbury. Schuyler Canterbury is even larger print than the Turquoise. So Turquoise Georgia was about 10.5 compared to the Georgia typeface. This is about an 11-point font. Number of characters per line, 30 here, 36 on the left. So it's a little bit longer lines than the Allan Longprimer, quite a lot longer lines than the Turquoise, which again I like better. Schuyler has neat things that other Bibles don't have. It has this beautiful drop caps at the beginning of chapters. It has chapters in red, and it has headings breaking the Bible up, and so in-text headings rather than just the headings at the top of the page. Another thing the Schuyler does is it puts all the references at the bottom of the page, which is fine if you don't like the references. If, like me, you use the references quite a lot, then it's not that good. I prefer having them in the center column, like the Longprimer and the Turquoise. Another thing I don't much like about the Canterbury is skinny letters. They're very thin, very modern. I like this old, bold. But that's so nice. Nice and bold. Very pretty. The Turquoise and the Allan have pronouncing text, but the Canterbury doesn't. The Canterbury has accents in certain places. Canterbury has no text notes, and you'll see text notes in both the Longprimer and the Cambridge, and I'll point out a detail or two about that in a moment. And again, the Longprimer doesn't have italicized text. So with this version, you have center column references nicely lined up with the text. You have words of Christ, words that are supplied, such as the that here, supplied by the translator in italics. Longprimer lacks one, the Canterbury lacks the other. Turquoise has them both. I want to look at a couple of verses specifically. Here, Hebrews 1, verse 6. See, verse says, and let all the angels of God worship him. That is, worship Christ. Well, where is that quoted from? Read in the center column there, and you have a reference, the O, and let the O there points you back to Deuteronomy 32:43. That's good. You don't have to, as you would in the Schuyler, have to go down, find 1.6 down at the bottom of the page. It's right here, right next to you. Longprimer is quite good too, and in fact I think it does this a little better. If you look at 1.6 here, and let all the angels of God worship him, you see the Z. You find the Z in the center, and it gives you a comparison verse, Psalm 97:7, but then it tells you it's cited from Deuteronomy 32:43. So not only do you know that it's related to that text, and let all the angels of God worship him, but you know it's actually cited from it, and not from the Hebrew version of the Old Testament, but from the Greek. That is, the LXX stands, the Roman numeral 70, which stands for the Septuagint. Another place where I think the Longprimer is a bit superior is Hebrews 2:1. You see at the end of the verse, lest at any time we should let them slip. In 6, the note there points you to the center column, where it says, the Greek says, run out as leaking vessels. That is, in fact, I checked, and that's the text note that was in the original King James Version. But modern versions differ. The 1901 American Standard Version has in that point, lest haply we drift away from them. This is what Vine's Expository Dictionary of the New Testament says. The Greek word there is parareo, it's the verb, and they indicate that the English Revised Version of 1885 says, less happily we drift away from them, and they like that better. They say that the Authorized Version margin, run out as leaking vessels, does not give the meaning. So if you like the original King James Version notes, then you'll like this text better, Turquoise. But if you prefer the modern reading, you go here in the Allan Longprimer. You see, lest at any time we should let them slip is let off by a 5. And you look in the center, and it says, lest haply we should slip away, which agrees with Vine's in the modern versions. Now, the next comparison I'll do doesn't show the Longprimer that well. Here, verse 2:16. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. When you read that in this, the Turquoise, or in the Canterbury, the Schuyler version, you see the italic text there. You know the translators supplied that, so it may not have anything to do with nature at all. But if you read it simply in the Allan Longprimer, no italics, For verily he took not on him the nature of angels. Well, it tells me immediately this has to do with the incarnation. He did take on the nature of Abraham, right? We're the seed of Abraham. So human nature, it has to do with the incarnation. No text note, no italics. I walk away from that verse with that sense. The Canterbury is better because it has the words in italics. But Cambridge, the Turquoise, is much better even than that, because it gives you a text note here. For verily he took not on him the nature of angel, as you see the Roman numeral 1, and it says Greek, taketh not hold of angels, but of the seed of Abraham he taketh hold. So that tells you, well, it's not really clear that this has to do with the incarnation. It has to do with taking hold, and you have to figure out what that means. Modern versions translate that in different ways. The American Standard Version of 1901 said, for verily not to angels doth he give help, but he giveth help to the seed of Abraham. I think you'll find that very commonly in the more modern translations. So, to sum up, I think it's a wonderful Bible. It costs $75. The other two that I've been showing are much more expensive than that. Very nice cover, very well bound. They're all Smythe sewn, so that's not an issue. Beautiful printing here, very nice, dark, easy to read, very little show through. The only negative is the paper gleams. You get glossed here, so you have to watch your angle between the lamp and the page surface and your eye.